On this edition of Kababayan Today, for Mommy Mondays, our second installment of our parenting panel on bridging the generational gap in Filipino families and a short discussion on ADHD. That's all next on Kababayan Today. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat and welcome to another edition of Kababayan Today. For Mommy Mondays, I'm very excited because it's our second installment of our parenting panel. Let's get to talk to Kimler Gutierrez from API Equality. We also have Don Martinez, a family therapist, joining us. Kasama ang kanyang ina na si Frida Martinez at si Dr. Joyce Javier from the Children's Hospital in LA. Hello, thank you so much for joining me today here on Kababayan Today. I got a lot of wonderful response from our first installment of the parenting panel because it seems to me that a lot of Filipino parents are struggling with this thing that they call raising their kids, especially their Filipino kids here in America. As we know, the sensibilities are different. We are a unique culture, and there are things that we need to discuss amongst ourselves that can maybe help our audience when it comes to parenting, right? Okay, so as we know, there is no manual for raising children, especially Filipino children. So kasama natin si Tita Frida. Tita Frida, why don't you talk to us about how it was like in your generation when you were growing up? What was the parenting style of your parents? At taga saan sila sa Pilipinas?
My parents are from Luzon, Central Luzon, and in the province of Pangasinan and La Union.
Okay. I've been there before. It's very beautiful.
Before,
so, lumaki kayo sa Pangasinan?
No, I grew up in La Union.
Okay.
And that's where my father was a doctor, and my mom who had a school of fashion.
I see.
I'm the eldest of 9 children.
9 children?
Yes.
My goodness. Okay, so when you have 9 children and you're growing up in the Philippines, there's a lot expected from you because ikaw yung panganay.
Of course, of course, of course.
Okay, so talk to us about how your parents raised you growing up.
Well, my mom ran 3 businesses, you know, and I watched her work from early morning to late at night working. And of course, I was there to help. And every moment she would tell me, okay, you have to have an education, you have to work hard, you have to have good grades, because without education, you are nobody. You're going to be like that vendor there in the street. So, and also my father would say, okay, you're going to be a nurse, you're going to be a doctor. We had no choice.
Okay, so it was dictated upon you.
Upon
now,
us.
this is what you're going to be. This happens until today.
Yeah.
Filipino parents expect their children to be accountants, lawyers, doctors. So there was a lot of pressure for you, I'm sure, and being the panganay, because your parents were working a lot, para ka ring magulang.
That's right. And my mom, really, we didn't have much time to talk. You know, it's mostly when she talks to me, she would tell me just good grades, you pray a lot, because if you work hard and pray a lot, God will do the rest for you.
Okay.
And of course, we were taught to be obedient, to be respectful. When our elders come, you have to always take their hand and say,
Mano po.
Mano po.
Mano po. Okay.
Yes,
As we know, it's a very different generation right now, okay? I want to talk to you, Don. Don, you are a family therapist. You're the eldest son of how many?
2.
2, okay, so no longer the 9 children that you were a part of. What can you say about the difference in generations from the parenting style that your mom grew up with and how she was able to raise you?
Well, I definitely got the message also to be an engineer or a doctor or lawyer, and I tried to do that, but it didn't quite fit. So it threw us into a bit of a struggle, and we had to learn how to communicate, listen more to each other. And, you know, I'm very grateful for the education and the financial foundation that my parents built for me, but probably there's one thing that's perhaps even more foundational to parenting, and that's giving your children a relationship that becomes a kind of template for how to love as an adult. So most of my clients, particularly, they come in trying to rework their templates because they're maybe in pain in a relationship or they're confused. And interesting, my Filipino clients, they tend to say, you know, I got the message of education, they're quite successful, but when it comes to like how to connect or why am I struggling in this relationship or what's the difference, Don, between healthy intimacy and unhealthy?
They can't communicate that.
Well, they often complain, I have no template. I have no...
Right, because they never experienced it. Okay.
Right.
So, well, I remember Kimler said something that really stuck the last time about the syndrome of, oh, you get 4 A's and then you get that 1 B and then that's the one that the parents like, why did you get the B? And I find myself doing that as well. And yes, I admit it, I'm guilty of it. Kimler, what you said really resonates in today's society. There's so much expectation from the younger generation and there's this constant struggle. What else can you say about how we're able to amend this or be able to move forward in a positive way?
Right. I think that when it comes to looking at accomplishments, I think that parents need to be a little more open-minded about what accomplishment means in America. I think that especially when your background, like my parents came from, you know, had to farm. My dad didn't start actually going to school until he was 14. You know, it's very important, you know, to be as successful as you can. But here, you have a lot more options, let's say, to become when you become a professional. And I think that we can be encouraged in that way. And rather than looking at a report card like, you know, here are your weaknesses, we can look at it like, here are your strengths. Is there a way that we can encourage these areas? If you're so interested in, you know, in math but not so much in English, maybe there's something in math that we can support you in.
Yes.
Even if it doesn't, you know, pan out into, you know, being a doctor or a lawyer. There are many other
and I can relate with this because just this morning I had my parent-teacher conference. We'll talk about that. Oh gosh, we'll talk about that when we return, and we'll talk to Dr. Joyce, obviously. All right, we'll be back here on Kababayan Today. Don't go away.